Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome back to the course titled Strategic Communication for Sustainable Development. My name is Aradhna Malik and I'm helping you with this course. So in this class, we are going to talk about more aspects of strategic communication. Now, this particular lecture is a product of a report. The reference for this lecture is a report titled Strategic Communication for Sustainable Development, a conceptual overview. This report was commissioned by the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development and Germany, and so this is the report that I'm going to refer to, and there's a German name for it. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it, but that's why I have this organization is known as GTZ, and that's why you will see the words GTZ in throughout the references for this course, for this lecture. Sorry. Okay. So according to this report, strategic communication in the context of sustainable development is understood as a dynamic process integrated in a large-scale initiative that comprises multidisciplinary and social marketing, non-formal education and public participation. It thrives on acting people. It aims at the innovative and sustainable change of practices, behaviors and lifestyles. It guides communication processes and media interventions within and among social groups, and is a prerequisite and a tool for change at the same time. So it's a complex process, it's ongoing, and it is multidisciplinary, and it's large scale, and it involves a variety of tools of communication, of strategic communication, and and social marketing, non-formal education, etc., and public participation. So it involves people, it involves what people say and do and how, and it involves the behaviors, and it involves media and everything. So it's a complex process and it's ongoing, and that is what strategic communication is. It's a very well written report. I'll give you the reference to this report and you can go through it in your own time. So maybe I'll have a section titled resources that you can visit when you are going through these lectures. This tool tells us or gives us a few tools for this report gives us a few tools of strategic communication for sustainable development. The first of these is communication. Dialogue. Communication understood as dialogue, which enables people to understand the key factors of their physical, social, economic and political environments and their interdependence so that rising problems can be solved competently. So it is a social construction of meaning, of what people are experiencing, how they are experiencing, how people understand their physical worlds, how people understand their social worlds, how they understand their economic worlds, how they understand the political environments that they function in, and how all of these are interacting with each other, and how their interaction is leading or how their interaction is facilitating the interpretation of the problems that people are facing in their environments. Okay, so the dialogue that occurs as a result of these interacting environments and the dialogue that centers around these interacting environments is a tool for strategic communication. The second tool that is outlined in this report is development communication, or DevCom as it is popularly known, and it is the planned use of communication it is the planned use of communication processes. I'm sorry, there is an extra word here. It is a planned use of communication processes and media products to support effective policy making, public participation and project implementation geared towards social, economic, political and ecological development. So communication processes, dialogues, debates, discussions, information giving, information sharing, and all of that, and media products. How the media portrays this information, how it shares it with public, how it communicates it to the public, to support effective policy making, public participation and project implementation geared towards a two-way social interaction, geared towards social, economic, political and ecological development. It is a two-way social interaction process enabling the people concerned to understand key factors and their interdependencies and to respond to problems competently. Okay, that is development communication. So how do we use the processes of communication towards economic, social, political and ecological development? The other tool of strategic communication for sustainable development outlined in this report is formal education, institutionalized teaching. Teaching in schools and colleges of factual knowledge on physical, chemical and biological interrelationships of complex natural systems and their reactions to human interventions at a local, regional and global scale. So, physical classroom teaching, of different concepts related to the environment, how they interact with each other, what they do, how they should be understood, having, conducting tests, etc. That is formal education. The next tool is non-formal education. Sharing of knowledge, values, social and communication, as well as entrepreneurial and technical skills in a process and action-oriented way so as to foster sustainable development. So discussions at home, discussions among peers, showing by doing, showing people things by doing certain things, showing them how their actions affect the environment, or exchanging ideas, discussing about things. Sharing of values, again, children imbibe values from the environment. We discuss our values, we discuss what matters to us, what doesn't matter to us, why we prioritize certain things in our environments, why we consider certain things as more important than others. So that discussion, that sharing, and sharing of social and communication and entrepreneurial and technical skills, using our skills in our own work, modeling our skills, sharing our skills to solve problems faced by our peers in the community is a way of non-formal education. We are not directly educating somebody, we are not directly showing people what we are doing, we are indirectly doing something that is being imbibed by, that is being taken in, that is being absorbed by other people in the community who are seeing what is being done, who are being affected by what is being discussed. Another tool of strategic communication for sustainable development is vocational training. Further professional qualification and capacity building for planning, implementing and monitoring sustainable production and service provision process in all sectors. So we take an aspect of development and share it with people. For example, making business plans, entrepreneurial skills, teaching people how to develop something, innovations, and say maybe we have a course on grant writing or patenting our products or marketing of the tools that we have developed. So that would be vocational training. How do you develop tools in the environment? I told you about a sustainably and environmentally sustainable piece of cutlery. You know, it is a new concept. I've ordered my stock. Hopefully it will come before this course is fully recorded. So this is about edible cutlery that is made of spoons that are made of grains that are grown. So even if you throw these spoons, you know, you use them, you throw them, they are absorbed by nature. Now teaching people how to make these spoons in their factories. How do you make these spoons? Why are they made a certain way? Maybe somebody will come up with another idea and say, not only spoons, maybe you can make knives to cut cakes, because cutting cakes are soft, so you don't need very sharp knives, and you could make edible knives. You know, forks might break because the material that is being used is very brittle and it has to be biodegradable. So, but still, so you know how it's about, you know, different types of cutlery, different variations. Maybe you could make cups. So cones that we use for ice creams are already made of biodegradable material. We eat those cones. So you know, that same concept is used. So how do you make such things, and then how do you generate ideas? That is all part of vocational training, professional qualification and capacity building. Some of it is technical, some of it may be non-technical, some of it may be just you know, used to, you know, some of it may just be a stimulant for propagation of newer ideas. Environmental communication, more commonly known as ENVCOM, bridges the hard technical know-how of the subject matter of environmental issues and related soft action-oriented practice and socio-political processes. Communication about the environment, communication for the benefit of the environment, environmental communication, technical know-how, you know, which plants to use where, what kinds of trees are hardy, what will grow where, what will save the environment, what will help conserve water from the environment, in the environment, what kinds of grains will take up lesser amount of water. So you know, that kind of thing. What will be more beneficial to the environment, what will let other things grow along with it. So there are certain types of crops that facilitate the growth of other kinds of crops with them. There are other crops that will render the soil useless for the growth of other crops. So you know, what goes well with what, all of that is environmental communication. Then how will this technical know-how feed into our knowledge of, or where do we use this technical knowledge? How do we use this technical knowledge to develop policies? How do we use this technical knowledge? How do we share this technical knowledge with the people who are going to use this technical knowledge? So maybe environmental communication for the purpose of fostering, of letting people know about newer techniques to preserve the environment. And I'll show you an example of this in the next class. So you know, how do we use this? So all of that is part of the environmental communication. The other part here is social marketing. We discussed it a little bit in one of the previous classes. Social marketing focuses on marketing techniques such as market segmentation and formative research to maximize the effectiveness of interventions for the purpose of diffusion of innovations and social and behavioral change for social development. So taking our ideas into the community and convincing people to adopt those ideas, whether it is product development, whether it is, and all of these things are related. Social marketing of environmental products. So that would be environmental communication as well as social marketing. You know, so where the focus lies will determine what type of communication or which type of tool it is, but we have given them different names just to make our understanding easy. So it focuses on marketing techniques. How do we segment our markets? How do we discuss, you know, what do we discuss with which community and when and how? That would be market segmentation. If I'm going to talk about sustainability to people in a village, the definition of sustainability for children would be different. The same definition, the way I define sustainability, the way I discuss sustainability with the elderly will be different. The way I discuss it with the men in the fields would be different. The way I discuss it with the women working in their kitchens would be different. So you know, that would be my market there, and how I segment that market would vary the group of people I discuss this with, the way I take this information, the way I take these discussions to the teachers in the schools, in the villages, would be different. How they would perceive sustainable development, communication about sustainable development would be different from the way the same women would perceive it in their roles as homemakers would. So, that is market segmentation, and I would need to convince them within their own contexts, and I could take the hardcore concepts of marketing and apply them to social situations and encourage behavior change for social development, and that is social marketing. Civil society mobilization is information seeking by and with people for the purpose of policy change through participation by local residents and stakeholders. How do I mobilize the local, how do I mobilize the civil society? How do I empower people to understand what they need to know? So, and how do I encourage, how do I enhance their access to information? How do I empower them to take decisions that will be helpful for their own selves? How do I empower them to do things that will be beneficial for their own environments? That is civil society mobilization. So, it's not information seeking for the people, this is information seeking by and with people. So, I take people and then I get information from the experts that will benefit the community for the purpose of policy change through participation, not imposing policies on residents, on communities, but policy change through participation by local residents and stakeholders. That is civil society mobilization. Okay. Environmental education is another tool for the for sustainability, for strategic communication for sustainable development. And environmental communication is a process of developing a world population. That environmental education is a process of developing a world population that is aware of and concerned about the total environment and its associated problems, and which has the knowledge, skills, attitudes, motivation and commitment to work individually and collectively towards solutions of current problems and the prevention of new ones. So, we educate. One is environmental communication. Environmental communication leads to environmental education. Okay. Environmental communication will form the basis for environmental education. So, environmental education is more of a movement. It's not information giving, it is a movement, it is educating, it's a process of enhancing awareness on a much larger scale regarding the environment, regarding the associated problems in the environment, regarding what can be done to solve these problems, regarding what kinds of problems we can expect, regarding preventing new problems, regarding being prepared for new environmental problems that we may not be able to foresee today. What can we predict, what can we not predict? I know a lot of people talk about, when this whole, I'm using examples from earlier discussions for this. So, when this whole concept of bore wells started, we thought it was an unlimited resource like the solar energy. Now we have realized, because of indiscriminate drilling, we have realized that it is a limited resource and it is going to go down and it's going to run out. The same thing with oil and natural gas. I mean, we have, at least our mothers have seen this in their lifetimes when they transitioned from smoke chulas to gas for cooking, and now there are limits on the availability of gas, and we are looking for newer forms of cooking. So, it is still, we've realized that it is not an unlimited resource. So, newer problems are coming up. We discover something, we say, oh great, we have this new source, and then we harness that source and we realize that okay, it's not an unlimited source, maybe new regulations need to be put in. So, so these are the problems that come up in the environment that we have to deal with. Felling of trees. Trees are a great resource. We can make paper, we can do this, we can do that. Invention of plastic, everything is plastic, and then we don't know what to do with the mountains of plastic that we are generating on a daily basis. There is a whole movement regarding disposal of plastic cutlery. So what do we do? Yes, plastic cutlery is great, disposable cups are great, but what do we do? Why do we need to use these paper cups and plastic cutlery? I'm as guilty as anyone else for using these materials, but these are new problems that are coming up. Should we really be using paper cups? Should we really be using polythene bags? Now in my home state, the use of polythene, shops are not allowed to provide polythene bags for the material they sell. So we are all encouraged to take our shopping bags. In Himachal Pradesh, this is, it's banned. If people are seen giving things in plastic bags, they are fined. The government is pretty strict about that. So government of Himachal Pradesh has implemented this. So, but then when the polythene bags came into the market, we've seen it in our own lifetimes. When we were children, we used to get things in paper bags, and we used to take these cloth bags from home for shopping, and then suddenly as we were entering our teenage, polythene bags became the norm, and now, as I'm moving towards old age, now they're going out. So these things have a lifetime, and these are new problems that are being created, bottles stacked on the mountainside. So that is a new problem. So how do we find out what kinds of problems there are, and how do we educate the younger generations about these problems and their effects on the environment, and how do we prevent problems like these in future? That is environmental education. Conflict management, like I told you, anything related to sustainable development, to development as such, is fraught with risk. We are talking about, or includes the acknowledgement of the existence of risk in the environment. So anything that we talk about, the discussions that we have will include the discussion of risk of unexpected events coming and disturbing the course of action. That is risk. So when we talk about conflict management, when there are several stakeholders, they will bring with them a variety of viewpoints. They will bring with them a variety of ways of understanding the situation, and conflict management as a tool offers ways for promoting dialogue, reflection, participatory situation analysis. We discuss and we figure out what this means to both of us. So participate, the key players in the situation get together and figure out what the situation means to the key players. Consensus building, how do we get together and come to a common mutual understanding about what the situation is. Decision making and action planning for change and development among people and institutions at different levels. So how do we manage these differing perspectives, and how do we come to a consensus, a common understanding, and how do we plan for change after having resolved these conflicts and differences of opinion? That is what this tool talks about or helps us do. It helps us promote dialogue and participatory decision making. Okay. Some key principles for strategies of sustainable development. When we talk about communication strategies, we are talking about people-centered strategies. The strategies that we adopt for sustainable development need to be centered around communities. Again, I'm repeating this, I'm going to keep repeating this in every class I teach. Consensus on long-term vision. What do we want from our efforts? What do we want to do? What do we want to achieve? Comprehensive and integrated efforts. So whatever we want to do has to be going in the same direction. Targeted with clear budgetary priorities. Money is involved. So how the money is going to be used and why and when needs to be clearly defined and agreed upon by the key players in the situation, based on comprehensive and reliable analysis of the present situation and forecasted trends and risks, examining links between local, national and global challenges. So the strategy has to take into account what we have now and what we can forecast intelligently regarding the future, and then that analysis has to govern how we design our strategies. Incorporate monitoring, learning and improvement. the importance of feedback. We need to keep our eyes and ears open. We need to be sensitive to whatever the environment is giving us, and we need to structure our strategies in such a way that we listen to the environment and we learn from the environment and we improve upon the next step. Country-led and nationally owned. Government should be involved as far as possible. High-level government commitment and influential lead institutions. So somebody who people will listen to, it will help to have such people involved in our strategies, building on existing processes and strategies. We can't start something new and inflict it on people. And I'm using a very harsh word here, inflict it. As experts, we just go in and tell people what to do. No, not the way to enhance or encourage sustainability. It has to build on existing processes. Then effective participation. Encouraging people to be a part. The community has to be a part of any discussion on strategy of every step that we take in the direction of strategic planning. Link national and local levels and development building on existing capacity. What can we do today? What are we doing today? How do we take whatever we are doing today forward? That is what should run and govern what we do in future. So we'll stop here now and we will take our discussion from this point in the next class. Thank you very much for listening.